All right, let's dive in. Today, we are cracking the code of life itself. Basically, the instruction manual for everything that lives. And yeah, that includes you. This is your ultimate biology revision, all designed to get you totally prepped for your exams. So let's do this. I mean, have you ever really thought about it? How do you actually work? Like, how does the food you eat become the energy you're using to listen to this right now? Or how does a paper cut just fix itself? It seems like pure magic, right? Well, it's not. It's biology. And the whole instruction manual is written on a scale so tiny, you can't even imagine it. And that's exactly where we need to begin. It all starts on a microscopic scale. If you really want to understand the big picture of how living things work, you've got to zoom all the way in to the absolute foundation of life. Okay, so our first chapter is all about our microscopic building blocks. We're diving into the world of cell biology. The easiest way to think about this? Cells are basically the Lego bricks of life. Seriously, everything from the tiniest bacterium to a massive blue whale is built from these little guys. But just like Legos, not all bricks are created equal. Right away, we see this huge split in the road. On one side, you've got your prokaryotic cells. Think simple, think efficient. These are your bacteria. They don't have a nucleus. They just keep all their important stuff floating around inside. Then, on the other side, you've got the eukaryotic cells. These are way more complex. They have a proper nucleus to keep their DNA safe and sound. These are the cells that make up plants, animals, and, well, us. So you can't see these cells with your naked eye, obviously. You need a microscope. And that brings us to a super important idea, magnification. It's a fancy word, but all it really means is how much bigger an image is compared to the real thing. But the key question for your exam is, how do you calculate it? And here's the formula. You absolutely have to know this one. It's just image size divided by the actual size. A really handy way to remember the relationship is with the phrase I am, for image size equals actual size times magnification. You can just rearrange that to find whatever you need. Trust me, get comfortable with this. It comes up in exams all the time. Okay, so we've got cells. How do we make more of them? Well, there are two different ways the body does this. First up is mitosis. Think of this as a biological photocopier. It makes exact identical copies of cells. This is what you use for growth and for repairing yourself, like when you get a cut. Then you have meiosis. This is totally different. This process shuffles the genetic deck to make unique sex cells, or gametes. It's all about creating variety for reproduction. A silly way to remember it? Mitosis helps your toes grow. Meiosis is for making me. All right, so we've got the individual bricks. Now let's zoom out a bit and see how we assemble the human machine. This is all about how these cells don't just float around randomly. They team up to form tissues, those tissues form organs, and the organs work together in entire systems. We're going from a single Lego brick to building a whole complex city. And a really important part of that city is the power plant, right? The digestive system. It uses these amazing little workers called enzymes. The best way to picture them is as tiny molecular scissors. And each pair of scissors is designed to cut only one specific thing. So you've got amylase, which snips apart starch. You've got protease, which breaks down proteins. And you have lipase, which chops up lipids or fats. But these enzymes need a little help. They can't do it all on their own. That's where bile comes in. It's made in the liver, and it has two super important jobs. First, it neutralizes that powerful acid sloshing around from your stomach. That creates the perfect, safe environment for the enzymes to get to work. And second, it emulsifies fats. That sounds complicated, but all it means is it takes big, greasy blobs of fat and breaks them into tiny little droplets. This gives the lipase enzyme way more surface area to attack, making digestion so much more efficient. So we've broken down the food into useful nutrients. Now what? We gotta deliver it, right? And that's the job of the body's highway system, your blood vessels. Think of your arteries as the big motorways. They've got thick, muscular walls because they have to handle the high-pressure traffic of blood being pumped away from the heart. Your veins are the roads coming back to the heart. The pressure's lower, so they have these clever little valves to make sure blood doesn't flow backward. And then you have the capillaries. These are the tiny little neighborhood streets, so narrow that they're only one cell thick. This is where the real action happens, the drop-offs and pickups of oxygen and nutrients to the cells. Okay, so we've built our city, we've got the delivery network running, but what happens when bad guys try to invade? That brings us to our next section, defending the fortress. We need to understand the body's incredible immune system. So yeah, picture your body as this amazing fortress, always on high alert for invaders. And who are these invaders?
Well, the scientific term is pathogens, and they're basically the four main types of microscopic troublemakers. You've got bacteria, viruses, fungi, and protists. Each one is a different kind of threat to our fortress.
The good news is our fortress isn't undefended. It has an army. That's your immune system. And the really cool part is that we can actually train this army to be even stronger and smarter. And that's exactly what a vaccination is. It's not medicine that cures you. It's more like a training drill for your body's army, your white blood cells. So how does this training exercise work? It's a simple three-step process. First, a dead or super weak version of the bad guy, the pathogen, is introduced into your body. Think of it like showing your army a most wanted poster. Step 2. Your white blood cells see this poster and are stimulated to produce antibodies, which are like perfectly designed weapons to fight that specific enemy. And here's the most important part, step 3. Your body creates memory cells. These guys remember the enemy. So if the real, dangerous pathogen ever shows up, your army is already trained, armed, and ready to launch a massive, super fast attack. Now, what if we do get sick? It's really, really important to know the difference between treatments. On one hand, you have painkillers. These just treat the symptoms. They're like putting a bucket under a leak in the ceiling. It helps with the mess, but it doesn't fix the hole. Then you have antibiotics. These are the real deal. They actually go in and kill the bacteria that are causing the infection. They're fixing the hole in the roof. And a huge takeaway here, antibiotics only work on bacteria. They do nothing against viruses. All right, for our last big topic, we need to talk about power. Where does all the energy for all this stuff, building cells, fighting invaders, everything, actually come from? This is the science of bioenergetics. It's all about how living things get and use energy. And it really boils down to two sides of the same coin. On one side, you have photosynthesis. This is what plants do. They take carbon dioxide and water, and using energy from sunlight, they turn it into glucose, sugar, and oxygen. Then you have aerobic respiration. This is what we do. We take that glucose and oxygen, and we break it down to release energy, producing carbon dioxide and water as waste. Just look at those equations. They are literally the reverse of each other. It's this perfect, beautiful cycle that powers almost all life on Earth. Now, for plants doing photosynthesis, there's a catch. They can't just go at top speed all the time. The rate is limited by a few key things. The best analogy is a factory production line. It doesn't matter how fast the rest of the line is if you run out of one essential part, right? The whole thing grinds to a halt. For photosynthesis, those potential bottlenecks are light intensity, CO2 concentration, and temperature. Whichever one is in shortest supply will limit the whole process. And what about us? What happens when you're sprinting for the bus and your body needs a ton of energy, like right now? You can't breathe in oxygen fast enough, so your body has a backup plan, anaerobic respiration. It releases energy without oxygen, but it produces a byproduct called lactic acid. You know that burning feeling in your muscles? That's lactic acid. And when you finally stop and you're panting, trying to catch your breath, that's you repaying your oxygen debt. Your body is gulping in extra oxygen to break down all that lactic acid that built up. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour through the code of life. Now, let's switch gears and crack the exam code. How do we take all this amazing biology and turn it into top marks on your paper? Listen up, because this is for anyone aiming for those higher tiers. It's not enough to just memorize facts. You have to apply them. First, get really good at reading graphs and interpreting data. Second, know your required practicals inside and out. What did you do? Why did you do it? What did you find? Third, nail those key calculations, like the magnification formula we talked about. And finally, and this is a big one, use the right scientific language. Don't just say it breaks it down. Explain how using the proper terms. That's what gets you the big marks. And that's a wrap on our crash course. We've gone from the tiniest building blocks to the massive systems that keep us alive. We've basically looked at the instruction manual for life itself. And honestly, it is the most incredible, most complex, most fascinating manual you could ever read. We've really only just scratched the surface. So the real question is, what part of the manual are you going to read next?